when we look at the objective for today's sort of conversation, Mike, it was to talk about how Werner has used Conexiom and other technologies to reduce cost and improve your overall customer experience. And so what I wanted to do was maybe we could talk about this in a few different slices. So, and from a background perspective, maybe you can talk to, the folks today about your first journey. You guys got an ERP in place, as one of the journeys. I think you evolved over time. So what are you currently on in terms of an ERP, and sort of, was there a selection process that went into that really had you, settle on that environment?
Yeah, so kind of going back to 2003, so that's light years. Some of you on the call probably weren't even born yet then, but so back in 2003, we decided to go from an old legacy system to Epicor Eclipse. So Eclipse is the system that we use today. And what we did as we progressed through with Eclipse, we went to conferences and got introduced to Conexiom.
I remember that's how we met. Yeah.
It was, I think, rolled out as auto order as part of, but it's a kind of a bolt-on, or I'm going to say a partner program to Eclipse. And what we did from there, after that conference, was we started to vet out what could Conexiom do for us. And from that standpoint, we were introduced to some folks at Conexiom. You guys gave us the proof of concept. We bought 20 licenses. We onboarded those 20 licenses, got those customers rocking and rolling. And we decided, okay, the next year we're going to buy 20 more. So we got to about 30 licenses used out of the 40 that we had purchased, and we got stuck. We couldn't identify any more customers. And that's when I was introduced to a gentleman by the name of Mark Schumann from Conexiom. And Mark Schumann said, hey, we have this program that we can do data analytics for you. And we can take all of your incoming emails and we can scrub them, and we can find the documents and the types of things that work well with Conexiom. So what he did was he got me a list of probably 350 more potential customers that we had already coming into the building, but fit a mold that we could leverage Conexiom's product with. So we did a full scale, I'm going to say, blast in 2018. We said, okay, we bought 150 licenses, or it was 120, 150, somewhere in that neighborhood. Really makes no difference. But what we did was say, okay, here's our project. We're going to onboard this many customers in the next 3 months. We're going to take this many in January, this many in February, this many in March. And lo and behold, working with the Conexiom team, we were able to onboard 150 customers and get them processing through Conexiom in those 3 months. It was a huge undertaking for the Conexiom team, huge undertaking for me as the point person at Werner, but we were able to do it and start recognizing the savings. So I just ran some numbers real quick this morning, just to see, what type of volume are we running through Conexiom. So right now, as of June, we're running right now about 20% of our dollars through the Conexiom solution, and about 15% of the lines are processed using the Conexiom solution.
On the customer, and that's on your customer order entry side.
That's on the customer order entry side. Yep.
All right. So when you look at those customers that you're running it through for that group, would you characterize them in as a type of customer that seems to to fit a pattern that orders in a way that they fit well for you with Conexiom?
Yeah, so what we realized was customers with a mature ERP system, like an SAP or a JD Edwards or somebody like that, if they have a mature ERP system that's able to send the clear text PDF documents or even Excel documents in some cases, if they were able to send us that right format, it seemed to work really well for us. One of the keys for the matching part of the mapping is, if they have customer part numbers, so we can link a customer part number and to an order or an item number in our system. It seems to work very well. So end users, paper mills, factories, anybody that's got that mature ERP system, OEMs. Most of our business right now through Conexiom is done for our OEM customers. So people making packaging machines for paper, garbage bag machines. We've got so many different types of OEMs in our area right here but that's where we really found our gold was with OEM end user type of customer.
Oh, thanks. That's interesting. So I'm going to step us back a couple of steps because, like when we look at those numbers, if I'm the CEO of Werner and you came to me, Mike, and said, hey, I've got a plan to run 20% of our revenue through this third-party service, I might feel a little bit nervous. So talk a little bit about those conversations and that journey and kind of how it evolved. So I'm assuming that we'd earned some trust along the way with the initial sort of 20 or 30 that we'd onboarded with you. But what did it take to evolve it beyond that? I'm sure it wasn't just a no-brainer.
So funny you should ask, Mark. So when we first started, I was a customer service manager at that point. And I was always looking for more people because our business was growing and things of that nature. So kept on getting the door slammed in my face when I was asking for more people. So then we were looking to increase our productivity and what tools are out there to help us increase productivity without increasing headcount. And Conexiom turned out to be that tool. So as I progressed in my journey at Werner, moved from customer service manager in 2016, 2017 to continuous improvement. What a great project for me to work on as a CI person, to look at getting the productivity gains that we were looking for without adding additional headcount. So we have not added additional headcount in the customer service area. I'm going to say since probably 2016. We're leveraging what we're doing with Conexiom to fulfill that productivity. So instead of, people say, oh, if I use Conexiom, is that going to displace our current workforce? So the way we leveraged it, we didn't displace anybody, but we didn't add any additional headcount. So that's where the play is for us. And it's the productivity gain without the additional headcount. So
if I'm hearing you right, the conversation that you had either with finance or with your CEO, whoever was, owning the budget at that time, you were saying, hey, I have requirements for 2, 3, 4 additional headcount in our customer service area. And they were saying, well, Mike, that's great that you have those needs, but our plan really is not to have to, put bodies in there. So how can you do your job without having to hire more people? And if I think back to 2016, that was a theme we were hearing a lot then. Now, I'm actually hearing something different today. I'm hearing businesses wanting to hire and actually struggling to find the people they want to hire.
So we've had some losses through attrition and people just, finding other opportunities. We're running into that same boat, Mark, where, the labor market right now, and politics aside, with unemployment paying what it's paying, I'm not going back to work. We've run into really tight labor shortage here in the state of Wisconsin. I'm sure it's really no different anywhere in the United States. But right now, we're still continuing to leverage that Conexiom solution. I mean, when you're looking at 20% of your dollars running through a solution that, yes, there is some order management on the backside, but getting that stuff pounded into the system and getting it available for our customers the following day is really the important piece. So when I looked at our numbers this morning too, we get these peaks throughout the day of when orders come in. So we get a peak right away early in the morning, and then we also get a peak late in the afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30. With, we have people working different shifts. So we have some folks coming in at 7, leaving at 4, some 8 to 5. So this tool also helps us level out those spikes throughout the day with the automation, essentially those orders. And one of the programs that Conexiom's got too is called rules-based order processing. So essentially we create a rule that any email that comes from a specific domain can flow right directly to Conexiom and copy our customer service person. So in a lot of cases right now, we have an order in our system before our customer service person even gets to that email in their inbox.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive. And if we look coming back to the executive decision then to do this. So you had the business case to do it, but I'm sure there was still a few hills to climb. One, how important was it that you actually had your executive leadership team on side with what you wanted to do? Like how critical was it? Was this sort of a meeting of two things? One, you had a need, but they also had a directive or an executive direction they were taking the company towards automation? Or was this something that you were pushing up and they agreed to? How did you view that actually getting undertaken for people as they're looking to go on this journey? We see a few different motions.
Sure. So looking at our corporate goals, one of our corporate goals was to really watch what we're spending. That's quite obvious. So what we were trying to do leveraging Conexiom lined up perfectly with what we were trying to do as a company in operating expense. So if we can increase productivity and control our operating expense, it became a no-brainer. So what Mark Schumann did for us is put together a business case. What is it? How many minutes does it take to process an order, process a line? So we did all the math and came up with numbers that were very, very easy to present to our executive team. And this went to all of our VPs and our president at the time. It was a slam dunk. I mean, nobody even questioned it because the return on investment at that time, we were processing probably 12,000 lines per month. Now we're up to 23,000 lines a month. So the return is actually better now than it was then. So my guess is we're probably in that 5 to 6 full-time employee range as far as savings.
Wow, that's a big deal, because it probably translates into more people, because it's not like you can plug somebody in who's just punching in orders all day. It's got to be sort of spread across a group of people, and they also they won't just have order entry skills, they've also got other skills that they need to be able to do as part of their job.
Absolutely.
A lot of which is industry specific knowledge in your business.
So, I'm going to call order entry a non-value add. It's just something that people expect. Taking that non-value added time and repurposing that into some value added function for our customers is really where we want it to get. So following up on orders, following up on open bids, making that proactive phone call to the customer, just saying, hey, we're coming your way today. Do you need anything? Or, hey, I saw your kid's name in the paper the other day. Just a goodwill call, whatever it might be, but one of those value added transactions versus the non-value added time of just pounding an order into the system manually.
All right, so that helps a lot. So it sounds like you had a corporate initiative around productivity where automation was one of the things, and you'd also identified some challenges where it goes. And how does Conexiom play with your ERP? Does it play well? Did it cause you a lot of challenges getting the integration? Pretty straightforward. Talk a little bit about that journey for those who maybe are thinking about what insights can they get around what's this going to take to make this work in my backyard.
So for us, it meshes very, very well with our ERP. So the Epicor Eclipse product, it meshes very well. So part of the challenge for us was finding the right types of documents. And once we initiated that analytics piece that you offered us, that was really the game changer. Knowing what types of documents Conexiom can process. And then once we were able to process them, like I said, the proof's in the pudding. We onboarded 150 customers in 3 months. And it was me working all by myself here at Werner Electric and working, I'm going to say, very, very closely with a customer service person at Conexiom.
So that would be Tara, who's with us today.
That would be Tara Casey. So Tara and I spent some long days and long nights keeping to our project plan of getting those customers onboarded. But we hit the goal. At the end of the day, we did our 150 customers in that 3-month time frame. And Tara and I still talk on a every other week basis. So that was one of the critical pieces to our success, was that after we onboarded our customers, there was a follow-up plan. So we had weekly meetings. I'm going to say for, excuse me, probably 2 years, weekly meetings. And then after the 2 years, then we decided to go to every other week. But those meetings were critical to find out where we were having issues, what we needed to do to fix the issues so that nothing lingered and that we were getting our bang for the buck out of every license that we were using.
Right. And so when I think of those, what I often hear from our team is, we got it, everything's working, but then something changed on the customer end, and maybe the emails are going to a new address or something changed, or we had a new customer service rep and they weren't familiar with the program, so they weren't necessarily sure how to use it. Are those the kinds of issues that you're talking about?
Those are exactly the issues, Mark. So I had a project specifically related to Conexiom. So I put together a control plan after my project was complete, just to find those specific things. Are we utilizing the licenses? How many lines are we processing in our ERP versus how many lines does Conexiom process for us for that particular customer? So we put together some percentages. So out of all the lines, what percent are we processing using Conexiom? And if it fell below, I'm going to say 60 or 70%, we started making phone calls saying, hey, why aren't we using Conexiom for more? Well, the email address is broken, or the whatever map doesn't seem to be working correctly. So it gave us that immediately jump on point to find out, okay, where do we need to fix? What do we need to fix? We get it fixed. So I ran those numbers, I'm going to say for probably close to 2 years. And now I just run them occasionally. But I'm still the point person. I'm the only person at Werner that really knows anything about Conexiom. So that's kind of a dangerous spot to be. But I'll be around for a while. So at the end of the day, we put control plans in place to make sure that we weren't missing the boat on any particular customer.
Now, I know you talk about maybe a little bit of the risk of you being the single control point there right now and your main point of contact. For the group here, I think you've got some backup though, in that every interaction that actually goes into the management process, the setting up or any change plans that you put in place, that's all documented between us, is it not, in the management console and a record kept of it?
Yeah, so Conexiom's got a wonderful, I'm going to say it's a dashboard. So our dashboard lets us see slices and dices, everything we would ever want to see, dollars, lines, whatever we want to see in there, you guys build for us. So from that standpoint, everything is good. And from the customer perspective in the portal, I can click on any given customer and see every bit of map history that we have, every document that we processed through. If we needed any kind of EDI documentation, we're able to pull that out of there. So the portal, in conjunction with the reporting tool that you guys have, your dashboard, that gives us everything that we need to know as to our performance, what we're doing, where we're falling down, which customers we're falling down with. It's very, very easy to see.
All right. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I appreciate that, because I was feeling a little bit worried for a second, thinking, boy, do we need to do something from a remediation perspective with Mike to put some backup in here? But then I thought, well, maybe we've got that in the portal. So, okay, I'm feeling a little less nervous about the situation.
So there's a fair amount of that's in the portal, Mark, but that is part of my, I'm going to say, transition plan. We've all got transition plans here at Werner. So that is part of my transition plan, is to get somebody spun up specifically on the customer service side. And what we'll probably do is take my duties and spread them out. So right now we're using Conexiom to process customer purchase orders, but we're also using them to process AP invoices.
Okay.
And spots. So special price agreements for our customers. So I have somebody right now that sits on the call with me from our AP invoice department. I have somebody that sits on that call that we do every 2 weeks from the spa side of things. So Jason is our spa guy. Tracy's our AP invoice gal. So they know the relationships that we have. They have the contacts that, so Jason or Tracy would be able to reach out to somebody at Conexiom and say, hey, we're having a problem with this specific map. Can you take a look at us, walk it through, and tell me what we need to do to get it fixed?
So we've got a question from the audience that I'm going to bring forward, but just before I do that, I'll cover one more piece just on the last thread you started, which was you started with sales orders for customers. So customers sending their purchase orders to you and automate that into sales orders. Did you go to the special pricing agreements next, or did you go to AP invoicing next? Where did you go next, and what sort of led to that expansion of the different use cases?
So we went from PO to AP invoice. And the reason we went that direction is we identified that, so most of our AP invoices come through EDI. So everything's kind of automatic. So the AP invoice solution that you guys provided for us gave us, I'm going to say, the poor man's EDI. Customer doesn't have the capability to do EDI. So essentially what we do is we take that clear text PDF, and we map it into like an EDI 810. And that comes into our system, and it becomes more of like an automatic process. So we identified probably 100 or 150 vendors that did enough volume with us that it made sense to come up with some sort of a solution. So on the AP invoice side, I'm going to say we came up with a savings of, I'm going to say right around 3/4 or maybe one full-time employee. So through attrition, that particular group lost an employee and didn't have to add the additional headcount when the time came. So because of our processing the AP invoices with Conexiom. From there, we went to SPA with, I'm going to say, limited success. We have some really good successes in that particular arena, but most of our SPA stuff is processed via EDI.
Right. And so that's a really interesting point. And we'll come back to that in a second, talking about the different channels, EDI being one, Conexiom being a channel. I'm assuming you got a web commerce site too that people can order through. So we'll revisit that in a minute, but I do want to get to the question from the audience. So it said, Mike, if you were to talking to someone in your shoes, however many years ago, looking to get started with Conexiom, what would you tell them?
Probably the first thing I would tell them is we're not looking to replace you. This solution is not a people replacement solution. This is a solution that's going to help us go from a manual, non-value added place to hopefully providing value added services for your customers. That was probably the biggest issue that we faced, was Conexiom's going to replace us. And that is the furthest thing from the truth.
Got it. So like you said, nobody in the company was said, hey, you're not needed here anymore. Time to leave.
Right. That was the thing that we wanted. We want people to use the tool, but we want them to know that the tool is not going to replace them.
Right.
So it took a little while to get us there. So with all change is difficult. Change is difficult for everybody. But now if we took Conexiom away from the folks that leverage it all day, every day, there would be a firestorm at Werner Electric.
Okay. Well,
we would not be in a good spot, put it that way.
That's good to hear that we're providing a valuable service to your team. So that actually warms my heart to hear that.
Good.
So let's just follow that thread a little bit farther around customer service. So I'm assuming you're not the only electrical wholesale distributor in Wisconsin.
No, we have lots of competition. I'm going to say probably 5, 6 just in the Fox Valley where we are. And so earlier in our talk, you said, what is your geography? And I don't think I talked about that at all, but we're a distributor, and we distribute products in, I'm going to say, the eastern half of Wisconsin, from the UP all the way down to the Illinois border. So that's our geography. And in every one of our locations, we have the same competition. There's 5 or 6. In certain cities, those 5 or 6 might be a little bit different, but yes, that competition is there in every geography that we serve.
All right. And is there anything that Werner sells, and I'm not talking about how you package it up, how you support your customers, but in the product that you sell, do you have anything that's super unique that people can only come to you for the majority of your sales? Or is the majority of what you sold, your customer could choose Werner, or they could choose one of those 5 or 6 competitors for?
Absolutely. So we are a Rockwell distributor, so that makes us a bit unique in that realm. So Rockwell's got areas of primary responsibility. So we are sole source Rockwell in the geography that we serve. But outside of Rockwell, the products we sell are same things that you can buy in a big box store, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of those types of places. So a light bulb's a light bulb, but it could come from Philips or it could come from Sylvania. Fittings are fittings. We all sell the same stuff.
Okay.
You could just buy a different manufacturer maybe, but really the place we're looking to get is, it's not so much the product. What value can we provide with the product? Is it delivery? Is it speed of order processing? Is it, any one of a number of different things? Services, what services do we provide that one of the other distributors might not? So we're trying to put our stake in the ground on value, and using the Conexiom solution, getting us out of that non-value added activity into something value added that we can show and differentiate ourselves from the competition.
Oh, so I did a lunch and learn yesterday, actually, with a guy by the name of Mike Marks from Indian River Consulting. I don't know if you're familiar with Mike Marks at all.
I am not, but I know the name Indian River Consulting.
All right, so their practice identified that for distributors in competitive industries, the primary area of differentiation was on making sure, and Mike's words, you don't screw up so that you keep your customer. Those were his words. In the study they produced, they called it a service execution failure, but his plain speak was so that you don't screw up. Would it be fair to say that in terms of value-added services, you said about following up on deliveries and that kind of stuff, it's about making sure that you protect those customers that are loyal to you from giving them a reason to want to look somewhere else?
Absolutely. So with Conexiom, so we've been on Conexiom since 2015. 2015 limited, 2018 full court press. Over the course of that time, 0 errors in quantity, 0 errors on part number.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'd be hard pressed to find. We do have some mapping, I'm going to say anomalies once in a while, but from that standpoint, we can explain where the error came from. But when it's the logic is there, there's never an error. So
what does that mean to your customers? Because part of our goal today was to talk about improving the customer experience. What does that mean to your customers? You and I who talked distribution a lot over the years, but for those who maybe don't know the business as well, what does that mean to your customers, Mike?
So for our customers, obviously, if we send something wrong quantity wise, part number wise, just think about the backside of that. What does that create for our customer? So they have to call us. Hey, you sent me the wrong stuff. So we have to create paperwork, send it to them, have our driver go out and pick it up. There's a huge amount of waste in that whole entire process. So our customers love the fact that when we're using your solution, we're not making errors. We still might pick the wrong product, but the paperwork that goes out to our distribution facility is 100% spot on quantity and part number. So from the order entry side of it, we're taking care of business. What we'd like to do is make sure that thing is way through, and we have things in place to help with that. Do we make mistakes? Yes. How do we deal with mistakes is really, at the end of the day, that differentiator.
All right. So I guess if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like aspiring to the perfect order every time is the aspiration. Delivering on that vision, 99% of the time, 99 point whatever percent of the time is the reality, and then identifying and correcting well after that.
Right. That you summed it up way better than I did.
No, I think I'm just playing back what I heard from you in my own
Yep.
words. Sometimes it takes a while for it to sink in through this noggin. So if if we, I know when I was dealing with some folks in the HVAC industry, one of the things they told me all the time was if they didn't get parts to their customers who, may have a service technician in a van or a new build going on somewhere, that meant that that technician couldn't actually do their job at that point in time. And it sounds like it's the same thing for your customers.
Very, very much the same. So we have OEMs, original equipment manufacturers that send machines all over the world. So when our customer's customer is expecting a machine and we can't provide product for that machine. So supply chain right now sucks. It sucks for everybody. So
That
semiconductor,
is the technical term for it right now.
yeah, it just sucks. I'll just lay it out there plain and simple. So right now, we have a glut of orders coming in for product that that our OEMs might not need for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months. So what they're doing is reserving inventory or getting in line for the inventory that is available. So this really helps us get orders on the system quickly to cement that either the allocation of inventory that we do have, or to cement the place in line for stuff that we may not have. So Conexiom is a great tool that way too, because it's very efficient in getting those orders into our system.
Oh, thank you. That's really interesting. Now, we got a couple of questions that came in that I'd like to get to. So the first one is, can you explain the overall rollout plan you utilized, and were sales reps still assigned since these customers are now handled automatically? And then the last part of that question is, how did you handle the transition? So I don't know what order you want to take those. It's all sort of one overall question, but in 3 parts. I don't know how you want to.
Sure. So our rollout plan, we just kind of got strategic. And what we did was, when I was working with Tara on onboarding the customers, we wanted to onboard some of our bigger ones first. So where the volume was, so when we identified our customers that we were going to go do this with, we identified them based on volume. So it was a line number volume. So we identified them based on that. And then from there, we kind of broke them out into chunks and said, okay, the first few are going to be a little bit slow because we're kind of brand new at this, and we're going to learn some things. So as we onboarded those first, I'm going to say 20, 25 customers, we learned a whole bunch of things that we could leverage when we were going to onboard the rest of them. So that first 25, what we ended up doing then was we created a map. So with Tara's help, we put together, here are the absolute things that we need to look at when we're mapping these customers. So one of them was, ship to and bill to ID, and then customer part number, those types of things. So we made a list that we used for the rest of the customers. So that sped everything up immensely for us. So the first couple were a little bit difficult. First, I'm going to say 10, 15, 20, but it got exponentially easier as we went through that process. So the rollout plan kind of, and I'm going back a couple of years now. So as we rolled these things out, what we did was we still had a customer service person assigned to the account. The reason being is there's order management that needs to happen after you guys automatically do stuff for us. There's still order management stuff that needs to happen. There's going to be back orders on those particular orders that are processed. There's going to need to be follow-up. Hey, delivery dates slipped. those types of things. So we kept the assignment, but when we look at productivity, we do calculate Conexiom into some of that productivity. So if one customer service person is doing, 5,000 lines a week, and another one's only doing 200 lines a week, all lines aren't created equal, because some of those we're processing automatically using Conexiom's tool, and some of those are just manual order entry. So we do look at that when we're running our metrics for our folks, knowing that Conexiom is part of that automated solution. But what we still do, we still have a manual piece to our process. So everything that comes from Conexiom comes into our system as a bid. And that bid is then turned into a live order by our customer service people. So we don't want anything to come into our system without somebody putting eyes on it, just as a double check to make sure that we have scheduled dates right and all that type of thing. So there is a manual portion to Conexiom, us using Conexiom, but that's our choice. We do that so we still continue to, I'm going to say, own that order from cradle to grave.
Right. And do you do the same thing, let's say, with your other channels like EDI orders and web orders? Are you having your teams also looking at those?
Yes. So our web orders all get reviewed before they go out. Our EDI orders all come in as a bid. So every one of those channels still requires a customer service person to look at them before they automatically process out to our customers.
So it'll be interesting. One of the things that we may want to do in the future, because as with some of the developments we've had with the solution, is people are starting to want to automate the verifications, the stuff they want to ignore and the stuff that they want to manage by exception and pay attention to. And
Sure.
so a lot of our customers are engaging us to do pre-order entry verifications. So check, do we have stock? Is it showing it's available for sale? Is the price right, or is it within this percentage? If these 5 conditions match, let her go. And if they don't match, then put it on hold as a bid and have someone have a look at it. So
Sure.
that may be another conversation for a future date for us as we look on our continuous improvement path here.
Absolutely.
There was another question here. Average number of order lines that you feed through Conexiom. And Tara actually jumped in and answered that for us, Mike. So she said that there are 7.35 lines per order on average last month. So thank you, Tara, for jumping ahead of that. So there was another question from that came in. Would you still find value in the Conexiom platform if the business was low volume order with low line count for a large number of customers, i.e. 1,000 customers with an average of 2 lines per PO with an average of 10 orders per year? I don't know if that's even possible for you to answer at this time.
It's really going to depend on your company. Where do you find value? Where do you see the opportunity? I mean, if you can automate 5%, 10%, there's still some value, because not all of your customers are going to be in that 2-line range or whatever. That's why we had Conexiom do the analytics for us to help us identify where those customers, which ones fit first of all, and then where would we find our value. And that's where we kind of decided, we can buy 100 licenses or 150 licenses. We know we'll be able to leverage them to the nth degree to get the savings that we're looking for. So I would say that analytics piece is really very important, at least at the beginning of the process, to identify the opportunity. And you may find that the opportunity just isn't there. And I know there are some tools that Conexiom's got now through machine learning and some other things. We're not utilizing that today, but for some of those lower volume, I think that's a transactional type business that you guys do. But for some of our lower volume customers, we're looking at that.
Okay, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. So I know one of the things that our product team recently introduced was actually targeted directly at low frequency customers, leveraging the AI and the machine learning investments that we've made in the last 2 years. Have we actually taken time to show that to you yet, Mike?
Yes, I've actually got the rundown on that a couple times. Just trying to figure out the right place to inject that into the business that we're currently doing. With supply chain, everybody's maxed out, stressed out. Probably not the best time to look at it right now, but I would say before the end of the year, we're going to probably have a go at that and see if that makes sense for us.
All right. And the other question that just came in is, did Werner have EDI prior to implementing Conexiom? Was the first question. So maybe you want to start with that, and then I've got a couple more follow-ons to that one.
So yes, we're EDI capable with any customer that decides that they want to do EDI with us. One thing I should mention is I'm going to say probably 98% of our customers that we're using Conexiom with have no idea that we're using an automation tool to process their orders. EDI is a costly transactional type of business. Where for Werner, based on the number of licenses we have, is relatively inexpensive as compared to EDI. Right now, about 4% of our dollar volume is processing through EDI. And like I said, about 20% is processing through Conexiom. I say Conexiom is almost kind of like poor man's EDI. It is really what, it provides that automation functionality without being terribly costly.
And then the second part of that question was, what are the key differences and benefits between EDI and Conexiom for you? And it sounds like you gave one of them, which is the customer doesn't have to say yes. You can automate without the customer having to do anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is one of the benefits. And I have to think a little bit. I'm sure there's more. But even with EDI, there are a lot of times if the map's not done correctly, we have a lot of cleanup work to do on the backside. So part of that is we have CI projects going on right now that are working on cleaning up some of that EDI stuff so that our customer service folks don't have to.
Okay.
But Conexiom provides that automation solution for customers that don't have the opportunity to do EDI.
And then the last part of the question are the orders touchless with no service agent required if all the rules are matched? And I think you got to that earlier. We haven't put the rule checking in for you on all of those. So just like with EDI and with your web orders, your team is looking at every order before you release it to the warehouse.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. And then, all right. And I think there was a question maybe more for myself, which is, how does Conexiom differ from traditional EDI and how does it set itself apart? I'd probably say it follows in with it, which is Conexiom focuses on helping companies like Werner be easy to do business with. So if you are a customer that wants to buy from Werner, and as a purchasing agent, when you create a purchase order, because you need that PO in your own system to get authority to buy from Werner. You need it to allow you to receive those goods on your loading bay, because your internal controls don't allow you to receive anything that doesn't have a PO attached to it. And you won't pay the invoice unless it matches the PO. Likely, you're going to need, then having created that PO, you're going to want to send your PO to your supplier. So if you're an EDI shop, then you'll say, Werner, do EDI with us. If you're not an EDI shop, you're going to want to push send in your business system, and that's going to likely today go as an email attached, probably a PDF attached to an email, maybe as an HTML email embedded, or even a spreadsheet or a Word document. So the differentiation is meeting customers where they want to be met, which is if they want to send it to you out of their system as an email, you should service that channel. Asking your customer to change for the pleasure of doing business with you when you're in a competitive market space doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. So that's probably one of the big differentiators. And I'd say the other big differentiator would be that it is data accurate, exactly like EDI, so that they can completely trust what's coming to them instead of having to focus on, well, are there any data errors in this? So would those match up with your sort of expected benefits, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. You said it way better than I could have.
All right. Well, I've had probably more practice than you talking. So that's not unfair. Listen, we are right at the top of the hour, so I want to thank everyone who joined us today and you know, stuck with the conversation. Hopefully, it was a good conversation for people and was of interest. Mike, I want to thank you personally. You've been a great partner as a customer over the years, and we really appreciate you and your company and you know, all of the goodwill and the good things we've done together. So thank you, Mike.
You're very welcome. And like you said, Mark, it's a partnership. Yes, we are your customer, but I don't look at us that way. I look at you guys as our partner in everything that we do. And you know, when we need extra stuff or want to stretch Conexiom a little bit, you guys are always open and willing to listen, or potential other avenues where we could use your service. So,
well, thank you. That's really appreciated.